Hello inmates, this is week 56 and this is Lost. The prompt this week was given by Octo and it was, his only thought was trick the lady. I learned through the Scorch that I really like a Soulmate AU where the Soulmate feature is not easily evident for one or both of the parties involved. My first foray with this was week 30, which won that week, so you can hear on the podcast. In that one, the Soulmate marker has to do with color blindness. I don't have any fascinating insight on how I came up with the idea for this week's, but I'm really happy with it. Now here is Invisible Soulmate. Charles had grown up listening to his parents talk about how they knew they were soulmates, and as a child he had believed them. Now he wasn't sure that soulmates even existed. Some of his friends had gotten married, but none of them claimed to be soulmates. They had just accepted that either soulmates didn't exist, or they didn't think they would ever find their soulmate, so they married someone they loved now. His married friends were happy, and Charles was right that none of them had married their soulmate. Finding your soulmate was difficult. If his parents told him the truth, you couldn't even see your soulmate until after you were married. It was like every soulmate couple had an invisibility spell cast on them, where they were only invisible to their soulmate, and the way to break the spell was the first kiss after being married. You could pass by your soulmate, and you would never know because you couldn't even see them. His parents had always told him that they met through mutual friends, and they each thought the other was some sort of weird prank for the first bit they knew each other. Everything had worked out for them, and they were happy now to be together. They used to talk about dating an invisible person and the silliness that often went along with that, but they also talked about how it was doable and that it was worth it. Charles couldn't believe that he used to believe that. He was only musing about soulmates now because he was waiting for his date to show up. His friends had set him up, and in their description of her, they told him that she believed in soulmates. Everything else about her seemed so down to earth and cool. From what his friends had told him, they had a lot of shared interests. Charles was just having a hard time coming to terms with the fact that there was someone out there his age that believed in soulmates. She was late, and it was setting his nerves on edge. Charles already hated meeting new people, but the longer they took to arrive, the more Charles thought about just leaving or how terribly everything could go. She was only a few minutes late, but it was long enough that Charles was fighting with himself about just leaving. Then, from behind him, he heard a timid voice query, "Hello? Are you Charles?" It took him a second, but he turned toward her as he answered. He told her he was Charles, and it was nice to meet her. He got up and pulled out her chair for her, and then he returned to his own seat. Starting a conversation that wasn't about what food he was ordering seemed like it might be impossible. Charles hated to talk about himself, and he never knew what to say, and it seemed like she didn't know what to say either. After what seemed like eternity, but it had really only been a few minutes, Charles finally got the courage to bring up one of his favorite books. His friends had told him that she liked books, and he hoped that this would be a way to get conversation flowing. Luckily for him, Charles had been right. Talking about books opened up the conversation, and then, even though the conversation was still a little stilted, it went well. Charles enjoyed his evening. They'd even discussed soulmates, and she said that while she believed in them, she wasn't sure exactly how they manifested. She'd only known one person who'd met their soulmate, and it was her great-grandma. By the time she could talk to her about it, her grandmother was losing her memories, so she didn't always make sense. Others had told her about invisible soulmates, and she wanted to believe it, but she wasn't 100% sure that she believed the invisibility part. Charles wanted to get to know her more. As the evening ended, his only thought was that he had to trick the lady. The biggest problem he faced was making himself invisible to her. He didn't even have to try to pretend that he'd never seen her because he never had. After all, Charles had never seen anything a day in his life.
Hey, this is Octo with Judge Comments. I chose Lost to win this week because I thought that she had a really interesting spin on soulmates. I'm a little bit of a sucker for soulmate AUs. because I just think that they're interesting in like a metaphysical sort of way. And I thought it was fun the way that she sort of played around with it. And first of all, the idea that you just don't see your soulmate at all until after you're married, a little bit funny. I'm not gonna lie. Like, that'd be such a pain to navigate. But I guess once you figured it out, it'd be really obvious. So, useful, I guess. The other thing of making the narrator guy blind was a fun little trick there. Also, the fact that he is trying to scheme his way into being like soulmates with this lady because he thinks she's cool. A little bit funny. That is all I have. I think I just enjoy the way that Lost wrote this. It had a fun little tone to it as well. And that's all for me. Keep that fire burning.
I hope you enjoyed that, and I'd like to reassure you that the story isn't over yet. I want to complete this story for Charles and his lady, and I've come back to them multiple times over the Scorch. Still not completed yet. I still haven't made it there, but there is more of them, so you can look forward to hearing from them again. It probably won't be for a while, and the last two that I wrote will be Embers. Remember, you can check out our Patreon, which has all sorts of good stuff, like access to the Embers for paying members. There are transcripts for every episode for free, and some other fun things. That's it for me, so until next time, keep those fires burning.
The Cellblock Scorch is a production of Stellacore, an independent group of nerds sharing their obsessions with the world. Links to all our projects, including Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube, Patreon, and Ko-Fi, can be found on our link tree, posted in each episode description. Follow us on Tumblr or Instagram to see the prompt of the day before the episode drops, and a quote from each Scorch the day after. If you would like to support our creative endeavors, you can give a one-time tip to the Ko-Fi of the writer of your favorite Scorches, or check out our Patreon. There, you can access the Scorches and episode transcripts for free, or sign up for Spark level support for $5 a month to gain access to our Embers as well.